made the initial question of like, hey, what are we thinking of? Like, where are we going? Um, and I don't want to. We'll talk a little bit about the actual like specific changes coming to the game in a little bit. And for those that aren't aware, I'll try to break them down in the shortest amount possible. But one of the biggest things, I guess, that has been like noted amongst like officers is that we've really grown a lot of new players into the guild over the course of probably the last, especially since free to play, but in even more so in like the last maybe month and a half. And I think one of the challenges we've been having is we've been getting a lot of new players, but in terms of keeping our guild identity of what MAGA was kind of founded on, I'm going to steal Guppy's terminology of being quote unquote casual elite. So when we've added a lot of new players to the guild, part of what we're looking for really as we're going forward is how are we not just becoming a strictly casual guild? We don't have mandatory requirements, we don't have mandatory events. So how are we as a guild going to retain basically our badass reputation in the game of being bangers that can kill people in the open world, but also be open and welcoming to new players. Other things that we noted were that a lot of people, at least officers said like, hey, there's all these new people, but I never see them in Discord. I never get to play with them in the game. Part of being in a guild is us like building a community. So some of the changes we've been talking about are what are things that we can do to make our guild stronger, make better bonds between players, and kind of what's going to make us successful going forward. So I'd like to start with I posted in guild alerts if you want to follow along. There's like basically 3 points that we're going to discuss today, and then we'll have open floor at the end for anybody that wants to talk about anything else. But I'd really like to start with number two. And that is like the building community among guild members. So some of this is going to be done at the officer level. So some of the things that we noted, I'm going to give vulnerability a shout out, who talked about like it really needs to be up, like ultimately content is created by the players within the guild, but us as officers should be role modeling this example. So making sure that we are posting different events or activities for people to be involved with. If there's not things going on and everybody just feels like all I can do is solo dungeons or solo gather, that's not really good for the guild. So going forward, we're going to be looking to host more events and activities. We'll try to post them in advance for members to participate in. Um, but if you go to 2B, Discord usage, this is probably like the one area that we've been struggling in most is that we have a lot of people in the guild. There may be 25 people online, but then you look at the Discord and there's 3 people in Discord, or maybe there's only like one or two, like one group of 5. So we really want to encourage, obviously, I think everybody that's actually here probably for this meeting, like you guys probably don't really need the talk because you're all here in Discord, but we're really going to be pushing for stricter Discord usage. We talked about whether making it mandatory for all members or whatnot. We know people are going to be in Hellgate Discords and other things. So we don't like having mandatory stuff, but specifically for new members going forward, we're going to be instituting a mandatory 2-week requirement for them to be in Discord. We're hoping that this is going to then that you guys will help in like welcoming into them into the guild, play with them, answer their questions, but also get them in the habit of continually using Discord as the tool for like communicating with guild members. And then the second thing I'm going to add for is this idea of entrance requirements. So one of the things we've had for a really long time is there's no like, and most of you probably joined MAGA because of this. We don't require anything for people joining the guild other than basically don't be a douchebag. That's our like number one rule. Everything else is kind of like as long as you're not really annoying or causing a lot of drama, like you're cool to play here. But what we found is that like that's led to a lot of people just doing their own things and not really trying to be like I don't say guild focused, but like play with other members of the guild. So one of the things we're going to do for you guys, if you're in the guild, you don't need to worry about this. Most of you probably already meet this, but we're talking about instituting an entrance requirement where I forget the exact numbers. I think it's 3 mil PVE fame, a mil PvP fame, or 500k gathering fame, something along those lines. That members will be expected to meet. The difference that we're going to do is that instead of them having to have it when they join, they will have to have it within the month that they join. So we will work with them, help them get up their fame, teach them how to PvP, take them out and show them how to get into the black zone to gather, or um, run dungeons with them. So we will still remain open to all members, but basically if they're just like sitting at 50K fame after 2 weeks and not like making any sort of progress, then they're not really active in game. And we're trying to, as I mentioned before, we're aiming for casual elite and not just like, hey, I am basically going to sit on my island all day and never interact with anybody. Because if you're not playing with the guild, then realistically you're not really adding value for the members here. All right, I'm going to stop talking for a second. I want to get open just on points 2A and 2B. I want to open it up to everybody here. Like, how do people feel about this? What are your thoughts? Go ahead.
Can I talk? Can I take the mic
Yeah, please.
for 30 seconds? I'm Straff. I joined the guild not too long ago, about 10 days, I believe, maybe a little more. When I joined, I had, I think, maybe, I don't know, 50K fame, something like that. And I've joined the guild pretty successfully, I believe. I've been very active on Discord, PvP wise. I've done a lot of Hellgates. I think I've been a pretty good member of the guild. So
I think you cut out, man.
Oh, I thought I was gone off.
um, I was saying that when I joined the guild, I didn't have a lot of fame, and I think nonetheless I've been a pretty successful member of the guild, being very active on Discord and joining PvP groups and fame farming groups and so on. And I think some people here can vouch for that. And I wouldn't have been able to join if there was a 3 mil fame requirement. And I think having a fame requirement like that would shut ourselves to to some good guys actually.
I can take that, Vinny. So
Yeah, go for it.
Straff, what we're talking about here is implementing a minimum requirement. So we'll still take new players. Like that's always been something that's core to us. That if you're somebody who wants to do well in the game, even if you haven't played it before, like we'll help you out. What we're talking about is as a new player, you're almost in a probationary period, right? So you've got 1 month to meet one of those minimum requirements. And the whole reason we implemented this, so we're talking 3 mil PvE fame, 1 mil PvP fame, so that's like 20 kills, or 500k gather fame. Snowbaby's not here and I don't gather, so I can't tell you how much gathering that is. But we're talking about very, like pretty low requirements generally. And if you're active in that first month, like one thing we talk about is like if you're really playing like let's just say an average of I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour a day. Like you should be able to hit those minimum requirements playing with the guild. What we're really trying to eliminate is a situation where, we've got a lot of people who are joining, who it seems like want to be part of a community, but then are maybe just, doing their island, doing solo gathering, not in Discord, not really participating with the guild. So that's kind of what we're trying to root out is, as a guild, we're trying to build a community and we want people that play together. And I think what Vinny's kind of looking for too is feedback on if you guys think those minimum requirements are too high or anything like that. Nothing's set in stone at this point.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to tell my stats actually because like I always fame farmed with members over here, and when I joined here, I was like playing 3 or 4 days this game. So right now I have total fame of 11.2 million, 1.20 million for players, 9.88 millions from the mobs. So actually I am like a test subject over here. Like if you want to put a criteria, I played actively like every day.
I want to add something. Oh, sorry, Swift. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so that kind of proves that those requirements aren't ridiculous. If you're able to hit it in 10 days, or actually triple it, one of those requirements, then if someone has a month, even if they can only play a couple hours on the weekend, it's still super manageable.
Basically what this will weed out is the people that like they join the guild and then they're playing in the blue zone for a month by themselves, right? Like if you're playing with the guild, like any like dedicated fame farm just doing even T6 dungeons, you'll hit 3 mil PvP fame like in 6 hours probably, or PvE fame, maybe not 6 hours. It might be 8 to 10, but like over the course of a month, if you're not playing 8 to 10 hours with the guild, then like realistically you're not playing the game at all, right?
I understand that, but then this would have to be implemented in conjunction with the monitoring of the Discord activity, because when I hang out in Corleone, I see guys passing around from our guild that I've never seen in a group, that I've never heard on Discord, that I don't.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to jump on top.
Yes, because I think that's a problem, right? Like if you're in the guild and you're like, hey, there's like 10, 20 people online and I've never played with any of them, and you've been in the guild for like 2 to 3 weeks, like what's going on, right? We want to play the game together. That's why we're in the same guild. If you're just playing it by yourself, then it's kind of like why even join MAGA, right?
Yep. I agree. It's like there's an undercurrent of do your own thing that I get from MAGA. But once you join the guild, you have joined a community. And I sat with it for a good long week and thought about it. And if you join the community, you have to make yourself approachable. You can say, hey, I'm doing my own thing that day or whatever, but you need to at least be reachable, that you're an identity that we can recognize. Because wandering around a town and seeing 10 people that you've never seen, never partied with, it's not conducive for us.
And we're not gonna here's the thing. When I say like mandatory Discord usage for new players, first off, like I said, this will be new people going forward, not people in this current channel. But it's not gonna be like something where it's like, oh, I see them in town and they're not in Discord, like we're kicking them. It's not gonna be serious, but it's gonna be one of those things where it's like, hey, if like this person joined the guild and I never see them in Discord and they're never partying up, like then like just quite frankly, we don't want them here, right? Like if they're not going to come talk to us and play with us, like go play in another guild.
The first step in my mind is an officer needs to reach out and contact them and just see why there isn't an interaction with the guild. And if it comes to that they're only busy doing their own thing with themselves, then I don't think we're a fit.
And also something to keep in mind is I think a lot of times when people join, and especially with some of the other guys who've been playing together for so long, it's sort of intimidating to be just jump in there. So part of this is us trying to get people who might not be inclined to join groups, might not think that they can join. Like literally, you want a PvP, you want to do anything, BT4. Like it's it's a very low requirement, and the idea is to get you involved in the game. And I think for a lot of people, like they miss out on so much stuff that we're doing, because we're doing stuff almost constantly. We just don't necessarily post about it. And so the idea is to get a tighter knit community and to get people who want to be playing is the impetus behind this.
And you hit a good point, Rip Down, saying about, if you're a new player and, being intimidated to go, join the groups with a bunch of vets, but, that falls on officers again, that we need to be a little more outgoing. I mean, not that 90% of our time needs to be spent, meeting and greeting every new recruit, but we should be putting forth the effort to show ourselves in the best light.
The thing I found out, my personal opinion, is like when I joined at Europe times, as I'm living in Europe, I only see like 3 people max. This is like real, actually. It's becoming like better now, but still we only have very few Europe players actually. Like
I mean, it's an NA-based guild, right?
I mean, that's something we're
also
trying
to work on.
Yeah, and so and making it where it's more of a mandatory thing where people who join are in Discord, it makes it easier for EU players. Maybe there's 20 people online and there's one person in Discord. It'll make it easier to start a fame farm group, go ganking, do these things. It just naturally lends itself to those things. And so even on NA times, we could have like 3 people online in the Discord and like 30 people online in game, and so it just makes it easier to get groups, and that's the idea.
Actually, we have lots of people, like around 30 to 20 at online at game at Europe time, but no one is coming to Discord.
That's what we're working on. We see that that's the problem, and
Yeah.
we're trying to address that, because not only on the points of people that want to do content and are looking for more people to kind of open their shell, is a lot of those people that are kind of just doing their own thing and gathering, since they don't have real access to other parts of the game, they might not even know that they're into that, like into faming or into Hellgates or into whatever.
And I want to add.
Can I say something?
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
may.
may.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why others are not open to join, sometimes for me example for example, I try to set content, right? Like I invite people for ganking and no one responds. So what happens to that is, since I tried doing that many times and no one responds, so the tendency that I'm not gonna do it again, since yeah, no one responded, right? So I think
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons.
it's disheartening sometimes. Really, when you try to set up a group, you see there's, I don't know, 24 people online. You put something in guild chat and no one gives a fuck. I mean, if someone asks if anyone is up for film farming, and if you're online and active, even if you can't, just say sorry, I can't. At least show people that there's someone here, even if you can't. Just
Yeah, and the guild chat is pretty much dead all the time.
Yeah.
I'll
And I
be
guess
honest about the in-game guild chat. Like, I know that I almost like I look at it here and there, but for the most part, like I'm using Discord. So if you want to talk to me, like, not that I'm not saying, not excusing, like I do agree. Like if I see stuff in guild chat, I'll almost always try to respond. But it's like hard, especially as a healer. Like if I'm playing on the open world, like I'm never going to be clicking over into chat usually. So the best thing to do is be in Discord.
And then I want to chime in real quick on what Mid Blues was saying. I agree that I understand it's a NA based guild. I fully understand that, but a perk of playing in a worldwide server game like Albion is to have a varied community, and I don't think being NA based is sort of an excuse to disregard the EU community. And I think it would be good for the guild to try and grow the community inside the guild to I don't know, maybe appoint a head of EU recruiting or whatever. I don't know, but it's true that for us EU folks, most of the time we're getting bored because we're not enough to form up groups, form up film farm groups or whatever. And we love MAGA, we don't want to leave, but sometimes it's disheartening to have no one to play with in EU primetime.
Yeah, can I jump in there too? I think maybe it was Sharkeisha who said we're an NA-based guild. I kind of cringed a little bit when you said that. So we're not an NA-based guild. We have both NA and EU in leadership. I will say that just by players, we've tended to skew more NA. But like we definitely want to have an EU presence. Part of bringing vulnerability back into the fold, bringing Darth into leadership, Nid into leadership. Is that we want to expand that EU presence. So I don't want you guys to think like you're second-class citizens or that you're second to NA times. I personally am in NA, but I play during EU times. So I get it completely. And I think, so the whole point of all of these changes, right, is good players want to play with other good players, right?
Exactly.
Like good people attract other good people. So we want to implement these, mandatory minimum requirements. And again, we'll still take new players, but they have to be willing to put in the time and effort and play with the guild. And again, so we want a bigger community of people for you guys to play with. That's what's driving all of these.
Yes, and I want to say, just to add to that, I don't think it's just the officers. Every person in this channel can make a difference in terms of building community. So, helping build friendships among the EU players, creating a tight-knit group, inviting people to groups. I'm really heartened when I hear like other people trying to start content, and it makes me happy when I do look at the Discord. I'm at work and I see people like all grouping up for content. So I mean, I'm on Discord kind of all the time, but I want everybody to be able to find like good people to play with here, and for the people that are new, everybody kind of sucks in the beginning of this game, but with a little bit of practice and training, and especially with playing with good people, you can get
You
good at
can
the
suck
game really
less.
quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's very
exactly.
true. Mhm.
So our goal is really like, we're trying to ultimately we want to make sure that the people that are in this guild are generally good players. And I don't once you're good enough at the game, then it doesn't matter as much if you're as quite as that, even as obviously we want people to be active, but especially when you're new, you're just kind of difficult to be useful for I don't know how to put this gently, but it's if you suck at the game, it's hard to get into content because people don't want to bring you, right? So we want to get people up to speed, but if you only play once every 2 weeks and you're doing stuff in the blue zone, you're not going to get better. So you need to play with people that are good at the game so that we can help you get better. Does that make sense?
Well, I feel like um some new players are just too intimidated and don't really want to ask for help. So one of my ideas is that you know how there's like Discord bots that like monitor how much you talk in like chat and stuff. We could have like for new players, we could have their activity tracked via one of those bots, and then have like a silver incentive at the end of each month to try and get those new players to be talkative more in guild chat.
Dude, if you can help us set up one of those bots, I'm all for it. Guppy has been on this fucking tracking Discord usage more closely. I do want people to be active. Here's the thing, ultimately, I'm gonna give you from my personal life right now. This has been the most insane week of work for me. And still, I'm making sure I'm finding time to do as much as I can for the guild. I don't think everybody needs to take it that way, but just if everybody just does a little bit to help people and get them set up, we can be really successful.
I wholeheartedly agree.
There are some jobs like you mentioned, like according to my job, I go into shootings. It might take 1 week or years. It's not taking years right now, but sometimes it takes straight 2 days. I'm off totally. After that, 4 days because I need to rest also. I come back, it will become like this. Right now I'm moving back and forth, but some people had different jobs. Like example, Fane cannot talk at all because it's prohibited because of his job. He cannot even say his company's name. So there are some people who is joining over here with prohibited or restricted um, jobs. So even though we track them, there are some guys who need to play 1 day, not play two, come back 3 days later.
Yeah,
No,
but
that's
at
fine.
least he doesn't talk, but he's always connected. So
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
for example,
so
if we have
that's
a board
fine.
that tracks actual login activity or whatever, that's fine because Finn is always on Discord.
yep, he
Yeah.
is. You always write in
Yeah,
party
so
chat.
I think mid blues just I see where you're going, how the implementation of this would work would track Discord activity, how often you're actually sitting in Discord. Personally, if you don't have a mic, to me that doesn't really bug me as much. I mean, honestly, we have probably more people talking at any one time than we need to, so it's probably fine if you're muted. But I mean, to me, it's more are you in Discord, or playing with the guild and around other people? Even if you're gathering, I mean, again, I know some people really enjoy gather content. That's not me, but I mean, you could be in the gathering channel with other gatherers, just talking about it or creating some form of community. I think that's the biggest thing is just being in here, not necessarily talking. So we wouldn't implement it in that way.
Yeah, I mean, even if you can't speak on Discord, just listening, I'll talk for everybody. I'll say whatever. You can type out in party chat even if you're gathering and stuff. All right, just really quickly, does anybody else have any? Because I want to move on. We have other things to cover. I don't want this to take forever.
Can I add one more thing?
Mhm.
I just noticed that usually there are newbies always on Discord voice channels, right? But I don't see. I mean, I don't see older players trying to join. So what happens is they're staying in the looking for group channel, and after quite some time they're just gonna leave since no one's inviting them or something, even though there's something going on.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I noticed.
Well, that's definitely a problem.
Let me take.
That yeah. Go ahead, At.
So a lot of the older players, 9 times out of 10, if we're online, we're just kind of hanging around looking for content. So we're easily persuaded. So, but a lot of the big thing for kind of the couple of reasons we just mentioned is like just being in Discord, it lets us know we're aware of people. We don't necessarily need more people calling. We need people listening to calls more hand. But it makes everyone more aware. Like we're trying to get a feel of the person more so by having a mandatory in Discord.
I think it's also just worth noting, like, you'll see I think a lot of the officers, like, hanging out and talking to each other in Discord. It's because we're friends. Like, we like to talk to each other. I like to come home and tell them how I fucked some girl up in volleyball accidentally. Like, this is, like, what I do for fun. Like, these are the people I want to hang out with. And I want to get to know, like, everybody in the guild to that level, and I want other people to be able to build those friendships. Almost never am I doing content that where it's like, I may be in a fame farm, I'm like, hey, our group's max right now, but I will try to help you find another group or swap somebody out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to try to get you connected to something. And if you just want to come in and hang out and watch me stream us fighting bosses, you can come do that. Like, ultimately, like, I would prefer people be in channels, like, hanging out with us and getting people to know each other than, just sitting, like, in game, but not in Discord. But I get your point, though. Like, if people are asking or trying to find groups and nobody's inviting them, like, that's a problem. So we need to be, like, cognizant of that and helping people get connected to.
Yeah, and would you let us know when that happens? Like, could you just ping us? I mean, the other thing is too, like, if a tree falls and no one's around to hear it, right? You never know. So, like, just let us know, and we'll do what we can to try to fix it going forward.
Yeah, good point. I think it's hard. Like, it pains me if I'm at work and I see some of these things and I can't do anything. But, like, that's why everybody needs to just try to help a little. Okay. I want to move on to point. Well, I'm gonna
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, with the mandatory, we're still saying that there's no bar on the way in. We just expect them to hit a couple of fairly easy to hit points within a month and become part of the community. Is that correct? Or are people wanting a requirement on the way in?
No, we're talking. It's going to be. You can join with any level. You can be
Yep.
no fame to join, but if you're basically making no progress toward either PvE, PvP, or gathering, like if you're just sitting in blue zones playing by yourself, it's no go. And there will be a 2-week requirement for utilizing Discord for new members, where we're expecting them to be in Discord channels when they're playing Albion to play with the guild and get to know people. That's kind of what we're pushing.
Okay, 100%. I just wanted to make sure that what I was hearing was what I was hearing.
So
Right,
practically speaking, who's going to monitor that? How is this going to work?
I see 90% of all of you.
Fortune sees all.
No, we've talked about the monitoring of that, and we will do it at the officer level. I mean, if you guys want to help out in something, like, I think if the best thing is, like, look, we're not looking for people to rat people out for not being in Discord. What we really want is, like, people saying, hey, you're new to the guild. I don't know who you are. You should hop in Discord and play the game with me, right? Like, that's what we want more than, like, we're not trying to make this like a police force type thing. We're just trying to get people playing the game together.
Yeah, because all of us were that new player that was scared to like ask for help until someone forced us to get into Discord and taught us how to.
I was just joking with somebody today that I don't think I left the blue zone for like 2 weeks because I was too afraid to get downed in the yellow zone.
I was the same way. Like, a lot of us started that way.
Quit the game
I
again.
went to red zone after a month.
Exactly. And then what took me about a month to get in terms of PvE fame when I first started this game, I had a guy that joined, like one of my real life friends joined the guild, had him out in the black zone on his second day, and we got him to the same point that day that it took me a month to get to. So it's kind of like knowledge is power in this game. So, like, we can help these people get way up to speed a lot faster if they're playing with us.
Especially if you're a gatherer, all you have to do is come to one of our Gather Gank events, and you're gonna love life.
Is there a gathering event?
We did last.
We'll have them. There'll probably be 1 or 2 tonight.
What time is it? Because I like never seen it.
Never. It's not posted right now, but Mid Blues, I can promise you at some point we'll take over an area in which we'll have like 6 to 12 people in it by the end of the evening.
I'm just gonna say, like I can't. The problem is like I'm not here during EU time, so I can't. I don't know how content is generated and how people get together. But during NA time, if I'm on, I'm going to be running a group. We were running a fame farm last night. It went from 6 people to basically 6 people in the fame farm, and then 6 people just hanging out in the channel. And I was like, all right, let's be done with this. We went out to Ben Aiden. We took over the entire zone, mined all the T8, killed the T8, killed the T6 world boss, mined 2,500 things, and then went and did a yellow zone war camp. Like, and everybody was involved. People had a good time. We killed a bunch of people. And that was just like, it wasn't posted, but like we're constantly doing things. And I'd like to, and I know EU's harder because you have a smaller community, but but that's where I want the whole guild to be at. I won't say 24/7, but like we want to make sure people are able to get in content. But unless someone's like willing to put those groups together, it's not going to happen. And like I said, we're going to try as officers to do things a little bit more scheduled. But like at the end of the day, like people need to be comfortable putting their own groups together.
Yeah, like Thorjan before he was an officer, every day made a fame farm group. Didn't matter where you were at, everyone was invited. And if Thorjan was on, there was a fame farm group going down. Everyone was invited. It helps at an officer level. I think more people are inclined, but anyone, like Vindrak said, anyone can create a group. And if it's simply just getting officers to help push people to do that, we're going to help you do that. But everyone can help out with this. And that's
Right
the
now,
point of building a
So I
community.
think Mid Blue's point is EU content, and so Mid Blues, I think one thing too to keep in mind is, we don't do an orientation as much as we used to now that the application's just through Discord, but it's a council-based leadership structure. Like we promote people all the time that are in Discord organizing content. If you see people EU time that want to step up into like a leadership role, just let us know. Like again,
uh,
we want more EU
right
content.
right now at EU, we are gathering fame parties, solo dungeons, sometimes dungeon ganking, diving, whatever, and dismounting. But we almost don't do gathering parties. We don't do Astaroth. We
Oh, no
sometimes
one does
do
that.
transportation. Like I cannot get there. Like I cannot
And
organize an event. I am newbie,
that's
but
and we're working on getting a. It all leads down to we don't have as big of an EU player base as everyone would like. I think we can all
Yep.
agree on that.
And
But
we
like
don't.
earlier when you said it has gotten better, that's the rate of Albion and player retention is not that great. So you can see we're making steps for it. Like you just said, it got better. So
like
we're working
at
on
first at first mornings we wouldn't got the healer. Like I played tank because we didn't have to for a week. Right now we have a Hellion and also see not hurt for a EU tankers. Like I know their name because they're always tanking over there. Quasars had to play healer. I don't know if he likes or not. And we also have one more, like sometimes Starfy came or someone else.
Yeah, fam. I
Like
can't.
right now, we are good with faming parties. I'm sure about that. Although we sometimes died, but it happened. But other than faming parties, like we are lacking.
I can
Well,
only. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
at the end of the day, like we don't have nearly as big of an EU presence as NA. And that's not to say even EU people, even just the play times. We have a ton of the EU people playing in NA times, like Darth and other people like that. So we just need more
but
recruiting on that side.
yeah, like for example, I get home like when I'm working. Like right now, I'm on sick leave, but like when I'm working, I usually get home at around maybe 8 ish, like my time, which is 18 UTC. So I'm not sure if that's like too late for people. But for example, yeah, you said we're not doing Astolat. Well, the problem is that we're kind of limited in that sense on when the boss spawns. Like the boss is spawning in 2 hours and 18 minutes. So like even though it would be, I don't know, kind of nice to do it now before the EU people go to sleep, like we can't really do it because the boss is not there.
Like I don't know what is Astolat. Obviously,
It's the world boss. It's the world
like
bosses that we try to organize. Every time they spawn, we try to organize a group from the guild to
what
go there.
What is their times? Like, is
It's
there
random.
any Europe
Random.
time for
It's
it?
20.
Oh,
No,
It's
it's
random.
24 hours
It's
after it's been killed.
it's random. It's 100% random.
It's
Okay.
random. Sometimes it's
The
18
world
hours. Sometimes
bosses are
it's a
different than
day
the
and 8
resource ones.
hours. Yeah.
what
It
about aspects?
Aspects are random too.
You just
like
find them as you go.
like
If it's
anytime somebody finds an aspect, I'm online or I'm like in the general vicinity of a computer and they write on Discord or they write it in game, I go with them to kill the aspect. But
most of the
like
regular aspects can be killed by 2 to 3 people. You don't need a huge group.
yeah.
Just grab a healer and you can
Or
kill.
like, if it's black zone and you want, multiple guys, and I've done actually, like, I think last week I did like 2 or 3 aspects with some people that were fairly new and they were like super happy
Yeah.
because they just basically stood there and they received a lot of cash at the end
Right. For
because the
this
aspect was enchanted. But again, like, you cannot, like, I don't want to say it like hostile, but you cannot expect us to like run around and try to find aspect for you guys.
So, all right, I want to get off. I will gladly, if we need to, we'll host a separate guild meeting related to content people want to see. I think that'd actually be a good idea, and maybe we can help connect people that want to do similar content. So if we want more gathering during EU, I think that's fine. I'll just say from my experience though, like in the NA times, I just say, you know what, tonight I want to do factions. Does anybody want to do factions? And I start looking for people that want to do it. And ultimately, like either people are going to sign up for it or I'm not going to be able to do that content. But unless you're asking and trying to find people to do it, and sometimes you have to push people too a little bit nicely, but otherwise it's not going to happen. All right, for the sake of time though, let us, because I want to give about 15 minutes and leave time open for any other questions. Really quickly, I'm on points 1 and 1A. So for those that haven't read any of the changes that are coming to the game, I've posted a lot of them in guild alerts. You can scroll up to read through them. But the main one that we're really focused on is the territory system. So since Albion's release, territories have been won and lost by 5v5 fights, which are called GVGs. That will be going away after the next major update. People keep asking when is the update coming. I fully expect that it's going to drop between the end of this season, which is like I think late October, and the start of the next season. We don't know that for certain yet. The devs haven't confirmed anything and they refused to, but all signs point to that. Plus, I think with World of Warcraft Classic coming out, like game population in general is super down. So I have a feeling like there'll be more reason for them to try to get this update out as quick as possible. But once the update drops, it will no longer be a 5v5 fight for territory control. Instead, it's going to be kind of what we do on reset day. You go to the territory and you basically fight and you take it. It's going to be done a little bit differently than reset day. There's going to be like a commander, and it takes like 2 days. You have to win it basically twice to take the territory. Is the current system that they have. It could change. But basically, what that's going to mean is that open world fighting is going to become the paramount of this game. So, being able to do big open scale fights, I personally don't really enjoy them, but that is where we are going. So, it sucks for healing, but overall, like that's going to be where we're headed. So we can still be a small scale open world PvP guild, but ultimately, for us to be successful, we're going to need to be training people up on large scale fighting. So we're going to be doing a lot of work in terms of ZVZ, which is Zerg versus Zerg practices, so people can learn how to really effectively fight in them. And then also, that's kind of leading into point 3 is that for a very long time, like MAGA, like, or at least currently, we've been a solo guild now for over a full season. Um, because being a part of an alliance has really offered us very small benefits and came with a lot of strings attached. But going forward, alliances are going to be more mandatory than ever because if you're at war with the world, they're going to bring more people than you can use to defend your area. So if we want to be a serious player, we're going to need to basically make some friends along the way. This will also help with the EU complaints, hopefully, if we can pair with some EU guilds. So once we're not like if we don't have a lot of MAGA people on during EU time, we can have other people from our alliance hopefully to help fill in content. But with that, I know maybe not all of you have even played in an alliance or don't know that much about them. But what type of alliance would you guys want to be a part of? Like, what types of guilds would you want for us to make friends with? Some of the stuff I have my own ideas, but I'll hold them for right now. But like, what would you guys want from alliances? And if you've been playing for a while, it's also good to give your perspective as well.
The opposite of Ironborn.
Okay, noted.
Fuck that shit.
I think guilds like us would be the best match, to be honest. So I can, like you said, casual elites, because I don't want to go full try hard or have it like way too many casual guilds where they're barely there, or and you have to do something and nobody shows up.
Right.
Definitely quality over quantity.
Yes.
Index had posted one guild description that sounded like a good fit for us. They were a bunch of old farts with kids and jobs and stuff, but they sounded like they were dedicated to efficiency when they were doing it. That's the type of people that are on my mind, is get more people like us that can just cover each other's asses a little bit.
I think one thing too, based on the concerns some people have brought up as well, is we want to make sure that there's a strong, EU presence as well on the guilds that are in the alliance with us. That should provide you guys some more content as well during the EU time, using an alliance Discord to find fame farms and things as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So one of the things that gets brought up a lot when we talk about alliances is there is the concept of mega alliances. So we're talking things like Oops, Arch, Squad. Well, not Squad so much anymore, I guess, but like these larger alliances that dominate large areas of the map, Sauce, things like that. What are your guys? For a long time, MAGA has been kind of against trying to sign up with like a really large scale alliance. What are your guys' feelings toward that?
Fuck large
You should do a
alliance.
straw poll on it, Vinny. That's an easy way
We
to do
can.
it.
We're not making a
Yeah.
decision today. I'm just trying to get people's feedback for
Yeah.
what they want to.
Fair enough.
So
I personally wouldn't want to be in a mega alliance.
It cuts down on the
should.
people we can kill.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I
You should
feel
ask the
as
question:
well.
who's ever actually been in an alliance of that scale first?
That's a
Do you
good
know
point.
how the content feels, or are you just sort of
I've
getting
been
that
in a
notion?
mega alliance before.
my 2 cents on it is, I think we should look for one to grow organically. Like
Yeah.
if we become a mega alliance, that's one thing, but I don't think we should necessarily look for one.
I
Fair
agree
enough.
with that.
I have
I agree.
one fear in an alliance, and I would really think that we were headed wrong if we do a merger in which we lose our guild's identity. This guild's identity is very important to me for whatever reason. So yeah, if we expanded and we ran a mega alliance that was, casual elite, but still had, 1,000 people, that's one thing. But just bumping into a mega alliance and getting their 10,000 scrubs and we can't kill them anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that basically 100%.
We've always been a quality over quantity type. That's kind of goes back to, we want to actually train up people by putting a minimum requirement and so on and so forth. I think
Uh,
like to think we're better than flat 4 claw gankers by the thousands.
I have a comment from Exidium who says, I think an alliance where member guilds are all active and similar performance wise, so there isn't any feeling of carrying or being. I think that's a pretty good goal to aim for. So roughly relatively equal skill level.
At the end of the day, I think you just want to join one that has both sides of that coin too, though, because I know there's a lot of people in here that would like to feel the more competitive and try hard side of the game as well. So, not just super casual.
What I would like to see, I think perfectly ideal, is get an alliance where we can use it to cover those missing time frames of not having as much activity, but where we can still play and somewhat operate as an independent guild to some extent. Like, it always got annoying we're always against mandatory content, right? And that's because it got annoying every day going to help some other guild while they shat on us, essentially. I think all of us would be more inclined if we keep it more strictly. Every guild kind of holds their own, but we're supporting each other type deal.
Yeah. On reset day, if we get 3 whole units instead of a unit and a half in order to go bust some heads, that's cool and everyone feels good.
Yeah, I think my thought is exactly what you're kind of getting at, Swift, is like I really don't want to join or my preference would be not to join an alliance where like we're adding a bunch of mandatory content. If we talk about like the like if we were to join Oops, it's going to be like you're expected to have X amount of people from your guild to show up to castles during this time block, so this many people show up to war camps at this time block, and then when NA time, these types of things, and if there's any CTAs, and all of a sudden it starts feeling like I'm basically doing a job versus playing a game, right? I like the idea of me getting to pick the content that I want to participate in versus being it dictated to me.
I don't necessarily think a little bit of forced content is that bad either, though. But if it gets to that point, it's not worth it.
But I think most people would. I don't want to say the word accept, but not mandatory content either. But most people don't mind going to their own guild's war camp.
Yeah.
It's you have some sense of ownership, some sense of pride. You're attached to that team, to that group. When you're doing it every day to carry another guild, and then on that same note is maybe in the officer side, that guild to that guild, it's respect and treats well, but it doesn't look good on the day-to-day player who doesn't get to see the behind the curtain. But they're always going to feel good about if we go into somewhere and we dominate a fight or us as a guild. And I think that kind of leads to what Thorjun was saying about his identity thing. Is we've always been this small but solid guild, and I'd much rather use an alliance to fill in the holes we've always lacked, which is sometimes we don't have content at certain times.
So I think the other thing to think of too is so we're talking a lot of how the game currently is versus what it will be after the next patch. So war camps, for instance, are going to go away, and territory control is going to come down to basically like a reset day type thing. So we could probably negotiate some of this out with how like the whole game's going to change and the expectations I think for guilds are going to change on the alliance level as well. But I'm imagining something along the lines like, look, we're going to go take our own zones, especially wherever our hideout is. I don't have time to explain all this, but like wherever our hideout's going to be. But it's like, if our home gets under attack, then it's like CTA, like other guilds should come and help us defend that so we don't lose our fucking home, right? And if somebody else gets attacked, then like we're basically gonna be like, hey, we need to go help them so they can defend their home. Something along those lines. And then we can have like optional objectives to go support, like, hey, we want to go fuck up this alliance this day or whatever, then we could go out and do those things.
Try to get a good neighbor.
Yeah.
It just needs to be a two-way street. You don't want to feel like a pawn for a giant group.
So that's why I think us trying to find a like-minded and an equal-sized guild, kind of like we did in DTF, but with more inclusion than what was there. The idea of what we were going to do in DTF. Let me say that.
Well, so here's the problem. Like so what Swift is talking about is we actually have founded our own alliance in the past. We bought a bunch of guilds together, and like we had really noble objectives, but inevitably it turned toxic because all alliance control came down to GVGs, and a small number of players were dictating, what they wanted over, other of like basically the entire alliance. It's kind of like how the game kind of runs now. Once GVGs are gone, though, we have no need to bend to anybody. We will be able to decide whatever the hell we want to take. We just go do it, and that'll be a collective decision. So I think some of that will be more alleviated in that. I don't know. I think Swift, one challenge I think might still be there is people are fucking greedy. So like we need to find like an alliance that's like willing to accept like, hey, we're going to split territories roughly equally. I mean, that sort of thing for it to make sense.
Yeah. I'm pretty high, fam.
And I do have to comment on the I got your back, you got our back. That's a pretty base thing that I feel from MAGA is that when it comes out to reset day and some other things, there's no mandatory, but I'm always tickled at the turnout that people feel like, hey, I need to go do this with the guild. And I think we can just carry that further into an alliance without like a mandatory and just get it in our culture.
Right.
Do the
Well,
right thing.
and it's easy though when it's a MAGA thing, right? Like it's our home's under attack, we're doing it. It's really gets more complicated when it's like, yo, when our home was under attack, their alliance only sent 8 people to help us. So why are we going to bring 40 people to help? I will say this though, like that's a great point though, Thorjan, because like our guild does show up in fucking numbers for like when our mages are under attack, like the whole guild's fucking rallying. When we are doing reset day and it's not even mandatory, like we had 52 people online during EU reset day this past go around. So like people are showing up because they do want to like participate in the content and support the guild. So like I'm more than like happy to see that. It's more of I just don't want people to feel like it's hard because I think a lot of you haven't been in like the soul crushingness of basically having to deal with like a daily schedule of things to do for an alliance, and it really fucking sucks.
And I will say if they only send 8 fighters and we send 40, hey, good for us, man. That just means that we're really interested, and maybe there's 8 people in their alliance or in their guild that might be interested in coming to us instead of being there if that's all they can muster and rally.
But
That's
if you remember Vendrex, there was also still people in MAGA that would show up every day for war camps because some people enjoy that content. Like I know Iron Haze and Misty would always show up to everyone's uh, fucking ZVZs, and I miss like, oh, I'm not doing shit. I guess I'll go fucking Z. So it's a bit of a payoff, and yeah, some people. That's the
well,
whole point of MAGAs. Everyone enjoys different aspects of the game,
and that's I agree with you there though, Swift. I want to make sure we're able to supply the content for all the players that want to participate in it. So if people want ZVZs, we have people that are running ZVZs. If people want GVGs, we have people that are running GVGs. People want Fame Farms, Gathering, you name it, you name it, you name it. Like that's kind of the whole idea, is that we have access to all content. So I do think for the sake of content discussion, I will schedule another meeting maybe in 2 weeks for us to talk about like what type of content we want as a guild, and we can then use that with the officers to schedule some events. If people, we can maybe even make a channel, or I won't make a channel. We'll have it somewhere you can post ideas to. That would be helpful. Any other thoughts for Alliance?
A lack of content in EU times, and at the same time, people say I don't want to join Alliance because then I have a lack of content because there's no one to kill. Those two things are somewhat counterintuitive.
No, I think people just don't want us to join a too large of an alliance.
Right. So the reason that people say that is because they then don't have content or something, right?
Well, but I think there's a lot of players that come from EVE Online, the space MMO, and that's one of the major issues that people face there, is that there are so many big alliances that you end up not being able to kill anyone because everyone is blue. I think people are just want to avoid that. I think it's fine to join an alliance, a decently sized alliance, but if you join the likes of Oops or Arch, you get yourself out of like a fourth of the player base.
So just to give you my experience of that, it's just not true. So if you go to Arch, you have so much content, you don't know what to do with it. There's really not a lack of content when you join a big alliance right now. Actually, in contrary to that, there's actually a shitload of content. So you get your war camps if you want to do that. You get castles. You get all sorts of random ZVZs. There's a bunch of fame farms whenever you want. There's basically anything you want to do, you can do it. So I think we have to get rid of that argument where it's like, oh, we won't have content. That's like the opposite of what will be the case.
I think it just means not joining a guild or an alliance with like 5,000 plus.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. You can join an alliance with 10,000 plus, and you will have content. You'll have more content than we do now.
Yeah,
it'll definitely be there.
Was
But
a shot caller for Arch just 3 weeks ago.
The flip side I see on that is as well as while in MAGA we have a lot of really good players that actually understand what they're doing, whereas you look at Arch and Oops, a majority of them
have no clue what they're doing. You may have that content, but you may not necessarily have the group that can actually.
This is
Oh,
true.
well, yeah, there's a
But
crap
I
ton
will
of
admit
players.
to you that the proportion of shitters in our guild and in Arch is roughly the same. So don't speak too highly of yourself, I guess. I mean, and not to like you specifically, but
The
Oh,
percent
shots
that
fired. Pew pew.
I'm saying
Damn,
I'm
you
not.
can't
I'm
shit
not
on
talking about
Sharkeisha
myself.
shit like
I'm a
that.
God.
so the aggressive stance will
Bro,
come
watch it,
down
Swift.
a wee bit, but no, I'm. While proportionally, yeah, that just means we have all of maybe what 20 versus 2,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what he's getting at is it. How do I word this? It doesn't seclude you from being able to kill people because you can just go to a different fucking side of the map. Like,
I think
but
he just doesn't want to even have to deal with that, is what a lot of people are saying. They just want to be able to do their own thing whenever they want as well, and not disclude fucking a quarter of the community. As in, if you're an Arch.
it's a double-edged sword.
I think the other
Of
thing to
course.
consider though is how the game's going to end up switching when the map changes. So I'm going to use we can use Arch as an example. Like they're going to probably plop down a base and take over like a quarter of the map that
Yeah.
inside that area where all the hideouts and everything are, it's going to be completely fucking safe zone, right? No one's going in there unless they're looking for fights, right? So it might be harder to find content in that type of scenario versus like if you're running a smaller type of an alliance where you know you've kind of enemies all around you.
Yeah. Maybe we should do a straw poll to see what kind of numbers of an alliance we want to try and go for as well.
But
I
yeah,
like that idea.
I think
'Cause
that's fair.
It seems very torn, right? A lot of people seem like they're fine joining 5,000 plus. Some people would be fine joining,
Yeah.
let's say, 2,000.
So this guild was actually one of the like again, I'm going way back.
Mhm.
I'm an old timer here, but this guild was one of the few founding guilds in Arch. So we were in Arch long time ago. Now we left because we wanted to pursue endgame content in GVG, and Gluttony just wanted to stick with doing ZVZs, and that was still the right decision at the time. But I can speak to what Vulnerability's saying. I'm not saying we join Arch. Far from it, but you still have plenty of content. Like, if it's content you're worried about, you're only going to have more of it in a large alliance. You're still going to have plenty of people to kill. Yes, you will occasionally come up on a group and you'll be like, oh, damn, they're in, XYZ, whatever alliance we're in, but that's more the exception than the rule. So I wouldn't get too worried about, like, the content side of it. I would just make sure that it's people you want to play with. Now, if your argument's like, oh, those guys are really shitty and I don't think I'd like playing with them, now that's a much better argument, but I wouldn't worry about the numbers.
And also how these new map changes are going to be, I think it'll make it so, like, right now it's like, since we're only in Carleone and we can only have access to man, I ain't been in game so long, I forgot what the fuck. Mercia. It feels like you see the same fucking people all the time. But if, say, we ran over to Limhurst and then ported to wherever the fuck you are in Anglia, you'll see a whole different crowd, per se. So it's one of those deals you'll just have to.
Yeah.
Do you want safety in numbers, or do you want to go out and find content? Because it's less of a blurred line.
True.
And there is
I got another question for Vinny. Are we thinking of joining an alliance pre this patch, like within the next month, or is this for next patch?
So I would personally like us to consider making moves now.
Yeah.
So it's twofold. So first off, what happens every time there's a season break? Every alliance it gets switched up. People like guilds move from alliance to alliance, like people that were friends before no longer friends, etc. Like that's very normal. I think with this next map change, it's going to be that times 10. Arch is not going to dissolve. Oops is not going to dissolve. Most other alliances, I think, will dissolve. Not everyone, but there's going to be so much movement and so many new things forming that I think our best bet is going to be to figure out who do we want to play with post map change, and I think that's going to involve a lot of alliance politicking. And I think even like in some ways, I think it's almost easiest for us to do it ourselves and pull the guilds that we want and say, like, listen, the map's going to change. We'd like playing with you. We want you to be our neighbors. Ditch your current freaking alliance right now. Let's start playing together right now so we can get on the same page. And then when the map changes, we're going to put our hideout in this zone. You're going to go to the zone next over. This one's going to go here, and we're going to create a bubble around our area and kind of work together. I think that's going to make the most sense. Because otherwise, even if we just join an alliance now, I think it's all going to shake up right before the end. It might help us a little bit, but I think we should start playing with the people we want to be playing with long term, like now.
Yeah, if you handpick
Does
them
that
now,
make
you can
sense?
try and hold on to them rather than hopping into a pre-made alliance. That makes sense.
I agree with that.
At least that's how I'm looking at it. I also think the flip side is that could be really hard, so it might not be possible. So the second best thing we could do would be to join just one of the standing alliances currently, play with them, people that want to practice war camps, get ZVZ practice, build some relationships, and then afterward, like when things start fucking going to shit and things are going to blow up, then we already have some ins with relationships and then pull those people. I think either way would work.
Yeah, keep in mind you're not married to an alliance either. Like,
That's true.
again, this goes back to even like, my main. Again, I like Fives content, so my main's in a different guild right now. It's Daddy Alliance, right? Well, they're not really in Mercy at all. They're a big alliance, whatever. But most of the guilds like come and go, right? Like some of them just say this isn't for me, they leave. It's not a big deal. If we join one for a month and people are displeased, you just leave and then move on. It's not the end of the world when a guild joins an alliance.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see it sooner than later as well.
I don't know which alliance to choose because I don't know them, but as far as I know, the guilds fight good. That's it.
All right, so it sounds like people want a straw poll. Well, we can make something like that and post it. If I can maybe get to it on Sunday, unless somebody else wants, or I can probably do it later tonight even. But I'm just kind of fucking wiped out from work. Any other last thoughts on alliances? Otherwise, I'm going to move to open floor and then we'll close. All right, open floor. So anything anybody wants to talk about, things going on in the guild, things in game, anything that you've noticed either of concern or things that you want the guild to be focusing on.
I actually have a question regarding toxicity and overall rude behaviors. As I said earlier, I'm pretty new to the guild, and I wanted to know if MAGA is enforcing some sort of policy in regards to that.
Like toxicity within the guild, or like calling other people.
Like if we're on a film farming group and people start insulting each other, calling names and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's like basically number one rule that MAGA doesn't tolerate. Anybody that's causing excessive guild drama, like that would classify. Now, if you want to go fucking talk shit about somebody else that's not in our guild, go for it. Open season. I don't fucking care. Unless you do something so egregious that it's causing problems for our guild. But not being in an alliance, we don't have to worry about that right now. But in the future, like if you're causing fucking alliance drama, then it's going to be a problem too. But if you have like I don't want to say you have to throw out names right now, but like if you see something and it's bad, like screenshot it or try to talk them down first. But that is like I don't want people being toxic to each other here.
And if we're witness of the same individual being toxic or overall rude several times within a few over the course of a few days, so it's a repeating thing. What's the course of action when this is the case?
Screenshot it, send it to me or any of the officers. It's fine. Send it to one of us. We'll have a conversation with them about it. Give them a chance to quote unquote pick their side. Usually it'll just be like, yo, if this continues, you're going to be gone. But like we're not taking a long process. So if they keep doing it and a lot of people are complaining, we're just going to kick them. That's just like we're not dealing.
So Straff, do you want us to boot Darth now, or do you want to wait?
No, I was sure. I was so sure someone was going to mention that, but no, it's not Darth. It's someone that was in that group, indeed, but it's not Darth. And to be honest, I agreed. When Darth got angry, he was right to be angry. It was
And I kind of
sausage.
didn't call people names. I just fucking yelled, "Are you fucking stupid?
Yeah, but
Stop
it
doing
was.
stupid shit."
Dude,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
and
know. I was in there and I felt a little violated, and I wasn't even in the group.
All it took was this one yell, and we like one-shotted everything after that. So
I
yeah,
think,
but
yeah,
if I was an officer myself, I would have shouted just the same. Dude,
and I think there's something different too, like losing your cool in a moment and saying something to somebody and then like apologizing or whatever, or versus just being like a constant douchebag all the time, right? Those are two very
oh, I haven't apologized, all right. I'm sorry.
Also, get in the habit of calling people out on poor behavior. Doesn't mean pick a fight, but get in the habit of calling it out. Like if it's part of the loot culture that's just not going down right, let them know that it wasn't cool. You know.
So,
Don't know
guys,
anyone better tell me what the fuck to do.
Go ahead, Bev.
guys, just a quick question. How do you expect that the mark gonna get after the major update? Like the price is going up, going down?
Prices are going to go down on everything. Gold, I have no idea. Even gold will probably go down some, but everything in the game's going to become really fucking cheap for a while because what they're going to delete all the war camps out and all the royal zone territories. Actually, all the territories are going to get deleted. When that happens, all the items that people have in them are going to get teleported back to town, basically. So the market's going to get flooded with things, and everything's going to be super cheap.
Oh, okay.
Stock up on your command mammoths.
Command mammoths will hold their value because there's not a bunch of those sitting out in war camps, but like resources, gear, like a lot of that's going to get flooded into the system. So when that happens, like I think there's going to be like market shock. Like we have so much, like people have been playing this game since launch. Like I have a war camp out in Anglia that is overweight. Like you can't put items because it has too much weight. So when that shit comes back to me, like that's gonna happen to like hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of players. So the prices are gonna go way down.
So I have just a, I just have one quick question. Is there a way forward to becoming an officer or to different ranks? Is there like a leveling up system that you may have in mind or something like that?
I can just give you good examples. Thorgen was running fame farms 24/7, consistently being helpful to guild members. He got promoted. Rip Down ran mages with me for fucking felt like 30 days straight to get us the silver mount. He got promoted. Like people that are consistently playing with each other and ultimately like doing things to further the guild, that's typically how we end up promoting people.
But basically, the idea is if you're already doing the things that we look for in an officer, you're on your way to being an officer. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, basically. Ultimately, it's like the people that are putting in a lot of work that we want to like move into like officer roles. If they're doing a lot to further the guild, we want to recognize that.
also, I'm not sure if I'm the like basically I guess letting the cat out of the bag, but what we are looking at internally as officers is also creating let's say some sort of senior member rank where people will probably be privy to more stuff that's going on behind the scenes, etc. So even though, for example, you will not make it as an officer in terms of like, because we cannot have everybody be officer, there is I guess things to aspire to in terms of progressing within the guild.
War recognition for long-standing players.
Yeah,
I'm
basically
gonna give you
that.
a better example to how shit works because I was a general member of not even MAGA. I was a general member of a different guild, and then my guild merged with MAGA as a general member. Gold Guppy, who's sitting in this channel, promoted me to it. It's like, hey, this guy's doing a lot of work. He can help with recruitment. Let's get him in here. And I became a veteran, and then eventually in the Senate. And then Gold Guppy ended up taking a break from the game. He's like, hey, take my council spot. Became a council member, and then eventually Deathwish took a step down. And he's like, Vendrax be GM. So it's like I was literally
You just
a
have to
general
beat everyone
member.
out.
Exactly. So it's like
Stay
one of
here
those
the
things.
longest.
Yeah, kind of. So I just use that as an example. So like, yes, there is definitely like the ability for people to take up officer roles, but like I'll be honest, because we've also appointed officers in the past that have been bad personality fits. Like they've been maybe very skilled, but I'm not going to say names. But they
Like
would
Darth.
no, Darth, you're not included in that. But like they would also cause a lot of drama where it was like impossible to do things in alliance because they were not political, they weren't like savvy, like, and they raged at general members. Like if anybody is, I think that's like
Oh, we're
super.
talking about
Like Darth.
Oh my god, Darth, you're fine, man. But like anybody that's I think going to be like abusive or like if I think they're not going to like I say but
Like
like
Darth.
oh Jesus man, all right, forget it. I'm just gonna stop.
No.
All
All right, I get the general consensus here. Let's just kick Darth. Being toxic to players in Fame Farm groups.
Oh, by the way, is the
All right,
things
I have a
that are
question as
inside the
well.
war camp getting teleported in the bank in Carleon or not?
Darth's also not very good at this game.
I heard a question, but it was low. Who said what? Something about
I think it was not changing seasons, maybe.
The things in war camp, are we getting it inside our bank in Carleon or not?
they haven't said where. They said it'll be accessible from a safe area somewhere. I don't know what that means, but basically it will come back from the work camp to a.
Was that Cypher?
Yeah,
As long as it's not in our
Cypher, what you change
inventory.
your name for, man? Try to ghost in here?
Wait, is that Zypher?
Yeah.
Holy shit, man! I didn't even realize not changing seasons.
I'm trying to change the seasons.
Jesus
Cypher, are
Christ.
you coming back?
No, I'm just coming inside and out sometimes.
You gonna
I
play some
still play
Rocket League?
sometimes.
Yeah, it's-
Rocket.
Coming inside what? Anyway.
Zypher, your
I'm going
mic
to
sounds
check
different.
I'm going to
Dude.
check on the carrots.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Zypher quit again.
All right. Anyway, sorry, there was another question.
Yeah. So, in regards to how we all help the guild, I know that most of us we craft, and we're supposed to be creating journals. Are the taxes gonna go? Are we gonna create
No.
taxes or
Taxation is theft.
No.
That's why there are no taxes, is we rely on donations.
It's not even that. Like, look, just for whatever it's worth, there's no bait and switch here. MAGA is a tax free. Like honestly, like just no taxes.
And Vendrax said
We've
it
gone down that road.
best is the biggest thing. Like one of the reasons why I think I don't like a tax is Vendrax said it best is the best thing you can do for MAGA in general is become an independent player. Like in the sense that you can afford to buy your own sets, you can afford to become a competent player, you can build up enough money to kind of be able to take care of yourself. And then so like a tax would hinder that and stuff like that.
That's
I don't know where I
exactly
was
it. I want everybody to be independent, and it is definitely very doable. It might be overwhelming as like a new player, but eventually, I think once you hit around 10 million silver, you won't ever need money ever again. So that's kind of the goal: is everybody get to that point, and then they can worry about like supporting the guild financially. We really don't, honestly, especially for new players. Like I don't need your like hard like 20k silver over the first 3 weeks you're playing the game. Like the guild does not need it.
And for players who don't feel they can reach that, I'll direct you to the Albion store. Gold is on sale right now. So
become an independent player. Here's the store.
Yeah, yeah. You can always gather.
Test, I swiped the credit card this morning. It was very effective.
That's it.
All right. Thank you guys for coming to the meeting. We'll post the minutes or the video of this so other people that didn't attend. I'll hang out for a bit if people do have other questions or whatnot. I'll probably move to a different channel, but otherwise, I guess maybe get some content together. I'll be doing stuff tonight. So if people want to do stuff, I'm in. Wait, you say it was world boss spawning at some point?
2 hours.
2 hours? I'm down to do that. If people
Yeah, like 1:30 now. Yep.
Okay.
Can I
cool.
add one last thing? I know Death Wish isn't here, but all y'all new players need to stop trying to take my inheritance. Do not accept that from Death Wish.
Oh my god. You need to stop. That's so funny. I know you have the inheritance.
Same with Gold Guppy. Don't let him lose too much money.